Hey, what's happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel and the Nintendo Switch Lite. The Switch Lite has been on the market for a couple of days. It released just this past Friday on September 20th. A lot of hype, a lot of interest, a lot of hubbub on the internet about the Switch Lite ever since it was first revealed, and especially now that it has released, because a lot of people were pretty excited for the Nintendo Switch Lite. And I discussed it on a few videos, including my last video, how it's definitely a device for a certain market and a certain type of person, a certain type of gamer. And while it isn't interesting to me in any respect, I can see why some people might get something out of it, you know, if you fit that kind of perfect little niche category that I think that it's meant for. And I think for those reasons, it's great. But since the Switch Lite was first revealed, a lot of people had a very real and a very serious fear about the Nintendo Switch Lite. And it is the nightmarish and hellish possible future of JoyCon drift, which a lot of us know JoyCon drift has been a huge issue for Nintendo, even resulting in a lawsuit by a class action lawsuit by a collection of different gamers and consumers out there who decided to go after Nintendo because of JoyCon drift. And, you know, we all know what JoyCon drift is. The analog sticks on some of the Joy-Cons occasionally get to this point where they're calibrated weird, and so they basically are moving the character or the camera or the whatever stuff on screen on its own. And it basically is just not good because it's going to completely ruin your game experience. Now, when it comes to the current Switch as we've always known, that's not as big of an issue. I mean, it's still a big issue, but the one benefit to it is that the Joy-Cons separate from the device. So if one of your Joy-Cons is broken, you can be like, well, either I can get Nintendo to fix this, or if they can't, or too expensive or whatever, I can just go to a store and just buy another Joy-Con, you know, for 30, 40 bucks, or buy the new pair for the 80 bucks, however those things are sold. And there you go. You've got your new Joy-Cons, and so, okay, my Switch is still fine. I just got to replace these things, and that's okay. Obviously, when we then look at the Nintendo Switch Lite, the big issue has been, well, the Joy-Cons, there are no Joy-Cons. There aren't. There's just buttons and analog sticks on each side of the device. I mean, some people say, oh, the Joy-Cons are stuck to the side of the thing. I don't really see it as that, because really there just aren't Joy-Cons. It's just one solid device with the same buttons and analog sticks that are made into the current Switch and into the current Joy-Cons. And man, if you think about it, that's a serious problem. That's definitely a serious fear, and to all the people who are worried about that, I completely understand. Now, I've mentioned before, I have not experienced any Joy-Con drift problems. I feel very lucky because it seems to be incredibly prevalent. But I've had no problems with the two launch day Joy-Cons I have. I use them on my Switch and Portable. Sometimes I take them out and I use them in the grip, and it's fine, and I've just had no issues. And so again, I feel very lucky. I haven't had to replace any of them. But I know that it's a problem. I've seen enough people discuss it, you know, and people who have had the issue are mad about the isse, but also then want a Nintendo Switch Lite for whatever reason. That's something that they have to worry about for sure. Now, when the Switch Lite came out, Spawnwave, who you guys obviously know, he made a great video where he basically pulled the Switch Lite apart, because that's what he does with hardware and stuff. And when he did that, he did take a look at the Joy-Cons, the analog sticks and everything, all the tech built into them, and ultimately kind of decided that, yeah, it seems like it's the same build, the same pieces and parts and technology that went into the regular Joy-Cons. Otherwise, hinting at the possibility of Joy-Con drift actually becoming a problem on a Nintendo Switch Lite, where the Joy-Cons are built into the device, or again, there are no Joy-Cons, but there just is no ability to separate the controls and replace them. If there's a problem with the Joy-Cons and you have drifting on your Switch Lite, you basically need a whole nother Switch Lite, which is a huge problem. Now, with all of that catching up sort of behind us, that actually brings us to more of the main topic and the main story. And I know you've seen plenty of other people talk about it. I've seen plenty of other YouTubers that you can see that have already discussed this story yesterday, but I did have my own opinions on it that I wanted to share, which I like to do here. And it seems to be there is a video and a small report out there that somebody might already be seeing Joy-Con drift on their Nintendo Switch Lite. This was a video that was posted by Alexis Javier, and you can see here, he's playing Breath of the Wild. He kind of nudges and taps the Joy-Con, the analog stick on the right side just a little bit, And after a couple of taps, it does start moving on its own according to what we're seeing in this video. Pretty interesting stuff. Pretty worrying stuff for sure when it comes to Nintendo, because this is kind of an inexcusable issue when you consider that, you know, the analog sticks are integral to your experience, and then taking it a step further when you decide to make a Switch device where there are no Joy-Cons and the analog sticks are stuck to the device, and you need to make sure that these things work for people. This is a huge problem. Now, there's been some conversation over whether or not this is entirely authentic and real, or is somebody playing some trickery, is somebody off camera with another controller connected to the Switch moving it around. I don't think that's very likely. As Spawnwave even pointed out in a video touching on this topic yesterday, it's known that if you were to, because this guy does touch the analog stick on the Switch Lite, and it's known that if you're using your Switch and then somebody else tries to control with like another controller, it should, I believe, pop up that menu that asks you to hit the L and R button and then change to your new controller. There does seem to be times where the Switch doesn't ask you to do that, and there are times where it does. And I won't lie, even having a Switch for 2.5 years, off the top of my head, I don't remember what those scenarios are. So I would be willing to believe that if this guy touches the analog sticks on his Switch Lite, and then someone else using a different controller starts to move it, you know, with the analog stick on that controller, yeah, it probably would pop up with that prompt. So that does potentially rule out that option. The other one that I haven't seen anyone talk about is the fact that with analog sticks nowadays, I think this is still the case. Back in the day, back in the 90s, it for sure was. Maybe it's changed. But it's possible that maybe he could have been like slightly holding the analog stick to the left at the time that he powered on his Switch. Again, back in the day with the earlier, you know, couple of analog stick controllers, that was the idea. Like when you power on your console, make sure you're not holding the analog stick in a direction, or it's not laying upside down on the ground and being pushed by the floor in a direction. Because when you do that, you power the system on, and then it does recalibrate what the center of the analog stick looks like, so that when it's sitting center, it basically is moving on its own. It's drifting on its own. And so maybe this guy went to a whole nother level and was like, oh, I'm going to pull one over on everybody, and I'm going to just sit here and just try to barely touch this thing over and then turn my Switch on and hope that I got it, and then I'll make a little video and put it on the internet and get everyone freaking out. It's a possibility for sure, but I'm going to be real with you and tell you that my overall feelings here are that this seems pretty genuine. This seems fairly authentic. I mean, I don't know this person. Obviously, no one knows this person, so it's hard to say that. It just seems real. It just feels real. So for the sake of conversation in this video, I'm going off of the assumption that it's real. And like I said, it's definitely a big problem, and I think that we're at a point where if this is real, this could be like an isolated incident. It could be a one-off. It could even be just representative of a very small percentage of Nintendo Switch Lite owners, to the point that it's not going to blow up and become a huge deal, and it's not going to become an overly pervasive problem with the Switch Lite across the board. That would be ideal, both for people buying these devices and then also for Nintendo, who really doesn't need to see another stink like this, another huge controversy happen with the launch of this like really awesome, exciting new device. One of the real questions I have with this whole thing is that if this does turn out to be an actual huge problem for Nintendo and for the Switch Lite, if this becomes something where the Joy-Con drift on the Switch Lite specifically is, you know, about as bad as the previous Joy-Con drift problems, it's going to be pretty impactful for Nintendo and for the Switch Lite and for sales. It could almost effectively like kill the Switch Lite dead in its tracks here in the early couple of days and couple of weeks even of the launch. I mean, if this is a problem to the level of previous Joy-Con drift, I mean, why would anyone have any incentive to want to buy a Switch Lite? What's the reason you'd want to spend $200 and be stuck with something that has a good chance of being unusable? And now I know that Nintendo has previously said they're going to fix Joy-Con problems and Nintendo Switches for free before because of this issue, and maybe they would continue to offer something similar for the Switch Lite. In fact, they absolutely 100% should. I would say for the life of the Nintendo Switch, they should fix all Joy-Con problems, whether they're separate Joy-Cons or Switch Lite Joy-Cons, analog sticks. They should fix that stuff for free just outright at this point, in my opinion. And so even if they do that for the Switch Lite, you might say, oh, it's not going to be a big issue because Nintendo can just fix that stuff. And okay, yeah, sure, it'd be nice to know that they're fixing these things for free and not making people have to pay to get their brand new device working properly, but that doesn't remove the hassle. That doesn't change the fact that the devices have these issues, are effectively defective at launch from the day of your purchase, and that people have to go through the hassle of sending their device and going a couple of days without it and all these different things and getting on the phone and calling, tech support or Nintendo customer support to set all this stuff up. Like, there's a lot of steps and a lot of time that people have to go through. It's cumbersome. It's annoying. It's, like I said, a hassle. And even putting people through those kinds of things becomes an inconvenience on the level that doesn't really justify the fact that they're doing it for free. It wouldn't even matter to me if they're fixing it for free if it's an extremely common problem, specifically with the Switch Lite. The previous stuff with the regular Joy-Cons, it is a huge problem, and I'm glad that Nintendo, publicly has been called out for it. But it doesn't feel the same way as it does with the Switch Lite because, of all the problems we've already discussed. You're stuck with it. It ruins your whole device if this is a part of your Switch Lite. And I mean, as somebody who already wasn't excited about the Switch Lite, I'm just kind of looking at it like, well, there you go. It's just another reason for this thing to just be a problem for people and just not exciting. And it just is what it is. But I know that so many people have bought these things. I know that so many people are excited for them or see it as something that they want. And so I hate the idea that they might be screwed out of their $200, at least until we find out what Nintendo can do for people. So, we have this little 30-second video. It seems like it's showing us Joy-Con drift on the Switch Lite. It's a huge problem for Nintendo and for the device itself. It's 5 days old, and this has already happened. It'll be interesting to see, if we don't hear any other claims about this, then it won't matter. This guy's video won't matter. And it just is what it is. It was a one-off. But if we see this turn into a bigger thing over the next couple weeks, man, it's gonna be a rocky road for Nintendo and for the Switch Lite going forward. And I hope that it doesn't outright kill the device, even though I don't really care about it. But it might, if the problem is serious enough, it might actually kill the Switch Lite. Maybe no one buys it and it becomes a product that Nintendo has that they can't get off of store shelves because no one wants to trust it. Spend that extra $100 to get a regular Switch, which already is the better product than the Switch Lite. So anyway, I don't want to get into that. That's a bit of a tangent. These are my thoughts. This is what's going on. It's pretty crazy, pretty unique situation. And I want to know what you guys think. If you're somebody who's already excited about the Switch Lite or already purchased a Switch Lite, what do you think about this video and the claims about Joy-Con drift possibly being an issue? And if you have yet to buy a Switch Lite, how does this maybe affect your interest or buying decision if you were otherwise looking into one? Be very curious to see how all of you guys are reacting to this. And so with that, then, I think this video is a wrap. So thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.